Why does it have to be all or nothing all the time?
Like, what am I doing? I'm doing it for the show. Field of 68 till I die.
This is the Field of 68 After Dark show, the only place that you need to be for college hoops every single night.
I was just about to say, listen to that beautiful intro. I haven't heard it since we've come back live on Sirius XM channel 84. And then I flubbed the intro because I forgot Rob tells you to listen to this very show. But this is Field of 68 After Dark. It's a special Sunday edition. We've got chaos in the sport of college basketball. Number one goes down. Who should be the new number one? We're here to break it down for you. We've got a bunch of action in the Big Ten to get to as well. We'll do some Sunday superlatives, and we'll even move to the Big 12, where it seems like any given night, anyone can beat anyone. We've got Geo Baker. We've got Terrence Oglesby. My name is Greg Waddell, and we are here for the next hour live on Sirius XM channel 84. You can watch us on the Field of 68 YouTube channel as well. Stay tuned for the afters after the show. We'll get to some of your questions. And if you hit us with stuff in the middle of the show during commercial break, we'll be live on the YouTube channel answering anything you got for us. Boys, I'm very excited for this. This is me and Gio's first time doing a show together. And you know what that means? We get to ambush T.O. and force him to talk the Big Ten. So let's start there. Let's go to Maryland, Purdue first. We got a bunch of games that happened today. We'll kind of rapid fire go through them all. But Purdue survives after a big lead at halftime. The team that looks head and shoulders ahead of the rest of this conference all of a sudden finds themselves in a one-possession game down the stretch at home against a Maryland team that a week ago looked absolutely dead. 1 week later, starting to show signs of life. Kevin Willard had them ready to play in the second half tonight. Gio, I'm going to throw it your way first. How surprised were you that this was a game down the stretch?
I was a little bit surprised. You know, it's funny critiquing Purdue when they're 19-1 now, but just wasn't super impressed overall by the game today. Mackey never really felt like how Mackey usually feels like, where it's like kind of this mystic place. Maryland didn't really play well. They shot 3 for 21 from 3, but you know, for some reason they were still in the game the entire time. So I wasn't super impressed by it. I don't know if you guys saw the same thing that I did, but I didn't really love their game today.
Maryland always plays Purdue close, and I'm not sure what it is, but there was a graphic that popped up on Fox while the game was going on. The two games prior to this one only ended with a 3-point spread, but the two games prior were 1-point games apiece. So over the past 3 games, Purdue's won twice, Maryland's won once, and the grand total of the difference is 5 points. Like, whether it's the fact that Maryland's so athletic in the backcourt or whether they're so athletic in the front, like, they have ways to give Purdue problems. But I think a lot of these things come down to, what are you going to do with Zach Edey if nobody else is really helping all that much? Nobody else was in double figures. And a little bit of these things, like Zach Edey's terrific. I don't want to take away from him. He's got to put some of these passes when he's getting double team guys. He's got to put some of these passes on the numbers because he's throwing them to the opposite wing and guys are having to jump to catch them. And that really, Gio, you know this, you were a good shooter off the catch. Like, if you have to jump up and catch them, come back down and then shoot, that's a really difficult shot. For Purdue to be as good as what a lot of people think Purdue can be, like, he's going to have to put those things with a little bit more accuracy out to some of these guys who can really shoot the basketball when it hits them in the chest.
Yeah, and speaking from a shooter's perspective, I mean, bad pass leads to a bad shot. And then the opposite, good pass leads to a good shot. That's just the way it goes. So definitely agree. And I've had my fair share of bad shots off of bad passes. So I definitely know the feeling.
But you still shot it.
Yeah, I'm still shooting it 100%.
I like that.
So we got Gio, who obviously played the guard position in the Big Ten. We've got T.O., who I would consider the resident shooter on the Field of 68 lineup here. So I want to ask you guys this, because my skepticism toward Purdue outside of the Big Ten when we get to March has always been, can we trust this backcourt? They're inexperienced. They've been great this year, but are they going to be ready for that moment? Are they even going to be ready to sustain through a Big Ten season and all that goes into it, all the physicality, et cetera? That plus the shooting. Today, they shoot 2 for 13 from 3. All of a sudden, it's a game, a rock fight of a game, but whoever you're playing, if you shoot 2 from 13 from 3 in a game, the other team's going to have a shot at it. Do we still trust both this backcourt and this team's shooting ability to make noise at the national level and not just separate from the Big Ten? T.O., what do you think?
Well, according to you, Greg, the Big Ten's best conference in college basketball. So
That's not true.
If they can be at the top of the Big Ten, they could be at the top of the country. At least I'm turning into a Big Ten guy. You guys have brainwashed me over the past two or 3 weeks, because every time I get put on a Field of 68 show, it's on Big Ten Thursday or Big Ten Sunday, and I'm here for it. Okay, I'm here for it. But the difference this year with this Purdue team, guys, like, they defend. Last year's team, Jaden Ivey's, his focus was in and out. I mean, you could catch him slipping on the backside. You could get some of those guys on back doors. And now they're not force feeding a 4 and 5 lineup where Williams and Edey were trying to play together, and they're not having to split minutes. This is a consistent team with consistent threats that know where they're going throughout the game consistently. That ball's working its way into Edey. That's the biggest difference this year. There's not a whole lot of variation in what they're doing. They know what they're doing. And defensively, these freshmen aren't losing track of the backside. These freshmen aren't losing their man because they're still freshmen. They're still hungry to be on the floor, and they know that they're going to get their butts yanked if they don't. I think that's the biggest difference. Kim Palm has them at 17th in the country defensively. That's the biggest difference between this year's Purdue team and last season's Purdue team, who I believe they were 93rd defensively in the country last season. That's the biggest difference.
And I think just to add to that is, because this backcourt is so young, they're not a finished product yet. Like, these guys are still learning constantly. I feel like going back again, my perspective, my freshman year was when I learned the most, right? From the film, from game day, from my teammates, from my coaches. That's when you're really taking everything in. It's not even February yet. They still have some time to still become a finished product. These guards are still learning how to take care of the basketball, how to lead, how to bounce back from adversity. There's still a ton of things that these guys are learning, and I think they're not a finished product yet. And the fact that they're so good already, I think it bodes well for them when it comes time for the tournament.
Hey, Gio, I got a question for you, because I played in a system at Clemson. We pressed the entire time. We were very one-track minded, and it allowed me to be one-track minded, to where, like, I knew where I was coming in. I was going to play 18, 19 minutes a game. I was going to shoot it every time I touched it. You played for a guy that was a little bit different. Like Pikel, like, there's a lot of nuance involved. When was there a point in your freshman season, and I'm not even thinking back that far, was that 4 years ago? What are you, 20?
Yeah,
Freaking killing me over here. Yeah, it hurts. Beautiful head of hair. Look at me. Nobody can hear us on radio, but I digress. Here's the thing. How long did it take you to really feel comfortable with what Pikel wanted you to do? Because, like I said, there's a lot of nuance.
Man, it took a little bit, for sure. I don't think I ever was fully comfortable my freshman year. I was still learning everything. And, also we weren't very good. So I was getting asked to step up as a leader, but I was one of the younger guys on the team. So there was a ton of different factors for me personally. But I think that's what makes Coach Painter such a good coach. Like, every single year, his guys, they know their roles. I mean, you think back to last year where you have Edey and Travion Williams, two of the best bigs in the country, splitting time, and you don't see any type of jealousy, envy, hatred. And I think that's Coach Painter bringing all the guys together. And I think we're seeing that with these freshmen too, is that at the end of the day, they know their role. Coach Painter is making it extremely clear, which helps a player overall in the long run.
So I don't know if you guys are aware of this or not, but a minor miracle happened in this game. Zach Edey was whistled for 2 fouls. This is the first time in, I believe, 6 games, only the second time in 10 games. Crazy. Zach Edey has picked up 2 or more fouls. I got to ask you this, because I'm seeing the rounds being made on Twitter.
That's favoritism.
It's Big Ten officiating, right? There's a lot of inconsistency, I would say. And I'm sure this happens everywhere in the country, but the Big Ten has a reputation for its style of play. And I think officiating is part of that. However, Zach Edey seems to be a bit immune to some of the fouls that big men normally pick up. Gio, have you noticed this at all? And I guess as a former player in this conference, what do you make of this trend where he doesn't seem to pick up more than 1 foul in a game?
I mean, man, if they called all the fouls on him, he'd be fouled out every game. That's just the truth. So I think that the officials have sort of adjusted to him, other than, the other way around, where he's supposed to be adjusting to the officiating, and it has been super inconsistent. But that's only going to hurt. That's going to hurt Purdue down the line when it comes tournament time, where, he's not used to certain type of officiating, and he's used to being able to throw all these elbows and get his positioning down low. So I don't think it's really a good thing, but it's making him look great right now.
Yeah.
Just to be a contrarian, just because this is a show and this is what we do on occasion. He's so freaking big and he's so strong in his lower body that he's just going to take up a ton of space and dudes just
Yeah.
bounce off of him.
Yeah,
Like
I think that's fair.
He's massive. Like he is so. It's like reffing Shaq. You remember
Yeah.
when everybody was having issues guarding Shaq, and Shaq was like balling everybody that he was playing against. He had David Robinson flying off of him like a bowling pin. Like it was amazing. Like he just moved players. And sometimes when guys are that big and that strong, like just because there's a lot of contact doesn't necessarily mean he was the culprit. But I see what you're saying.
He's getting away with some calls though, for sure.
Oh, there's no doubt. There's no
He's
doubt.
definitely getting away
And
with
the
some
fact
calls.
but Painter has also done a nice job of, hey man, whenever you're sealing, your hands got to be straight up.
Yeah.
Your hands have to be straight up because they're looking for you. And on defense, he's trying to slide there a little early to where, like, if he is in the mix, he's there early. So he still has correct guarding position. And guys, let's be honest, like he's an older guy now. He's in right position defensively most of the
for sure.
time.
Yeah.
And he's 7'12", which helps
Correct.
things. Like it doesn't hurt things. So that just to be a contrarian, he's probably fouling like all hell. But just to be a contrarian, like he does a lot of things that doesn't necessarily lead to fouls.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, for the record, we are not advocating as the Field of 68 network for more fouls anywhere. We want to see the best players in the country on the floor. So I'm not saying it's a horrible thing. Just a very interesting trend I've noticed. One foul or less for a man of that size has been a little interesting in Big Ten play. But all right, let's move to Bloomington, where Michigan State went on the road today. The Hoosiers pull away, 13-point victory. There's no other way to say it, guys. Trayce Jackson-Davis has been arguably the best player in the country over the last 3 weeks. He's going to be the Field of 68 player of the week this week. Spoiler alert for tomorrow. He's just been incredible. And today, that was more of the same. 31 points, 15 rebounds, 4 assists. The Michigan State front court has had their downs this season, that's for sure, but they had absolutely no answer for TJD tonight. T.O., I mean, he got his dominant hand the whole game. Isn't that kind of it? Like, you can't let that man go left, and he got left at will today.
Yeah, guys, sometimes there's dudes that you lead them so far one direction that it almost becomes an advantage because you're leaning the wrong way the whole time. And if he's able to get a step on you, he can finish. I will say this about TJD, though. Guys, I've seen some lob catchers. There's been some really good ones over the past 20 years. Some really good ones. You think about Anthony Davis. You think about Zion Williamson. Jackson Davis, he catches them from everywhere. He's got to be in the top 3 or 4 in the past 25, 30 years as far as catching lobs and finishing them at the weirdest angles. They throw lobs to him where he's running directly at the rim. They throw it behind him. He still manages to catch it and finish it. Like his ability, he's got the strongest hands in the Big Ten. He's got the strongest hands in the Big Ten. There's a couple of rebounds where Joey Hauser thought he had it, and DJD was like, "Nah, that's mine, fam. I'm taking that."
Took it.
That was all that was. It was just like, "Oh yeah, you got a rebound? No, sir, that's mine. I eat those. I
I don't know that he said it that politely. This game got pretty chippy in the second half, for the record.
It did get chippy, but he just took it. Like it's
Right.
unbelievable how strong his hands are. Like to credit to him, though. I mean, this Indiana team, they needed somebody to rely on, and boy, has he stepped up.
Gio, a couple weeks ago, you had one of the clips of the year. Sorry, I'll throw it right back to you. But one of your clips of the year for the Field of 68, Mount Rushmore level clip. You said these Hoosiers were soft, right?
Yeah.
And look, again, this is the first time you and I have met 20 minutes before this show. I agree with you, my friend. I can pull all the stats you want to know about Trayce Jackson-Davis's record in the candy stripes in his career against top 100 teams, whatever you want. I got it. I don't think this team has showed up in big moments. The last week has impressed me on the road to Champaign. And then tonight, I mean, is he sort of bucking your statement that this is a soft team?
No, I was going to say that too. I was super impressed. And obviously Trayce Jackson-Davis is always going to be impressive. I mean, he's put up the numbers for 4 years now. So that's not really anything different, but it was the other guys who impressed me. Bates had 17 points. Galloway had 17 points. I mean, these are guys who normally weren't really hitting their shots. And I mean, I think Bates had 5 threes. Galloway had 3. You know, that stretches the floor and just makes everything easier for them. But I thought it was the other things too. Like they were getting on the floor. Miller Kopp was getting on the floor. I've never seen him dive on a basketball ever before. Right?
He played with an edge today.
He played with an edge today. Yeah. And it's like the little things, they got back to playing defense, getting on loose balls. They were communicating. They were just playing with passion. And I think that's what they really needed. Like that's what I think the whole country was waiting to see from them. We already know they have the talent. Trayce Jackson-Davis is a one of a kind type of talent. But what are these other guys going to do just to make winning plays? And I think we saw more of that today than we have in the past.
Yeah, you got to give them credit given the injuries for sort of getting their season back on track, to be honest. I thought this was a wheels were off situation. Race Thompson returned today, 3 fouls in 4 minutes. Who knows if he would have played more, if not for 3 fouls in 4 minutes, but something to track going forward. And our very own Jeff Goodman got the chance to sit down with Trey Galloway, who did have 17 points, 3 for 3 from 3-point range tonight. And we'll show you that conversation right now.
All right, now joined by Indiana junior Trey Galloway, 17 points and a huge win today against Michigan State, Trey. And this has been kind of a roller coaster season, hasn't it? What's this been like overall for you?
I mean, it's been great. I mean, obviously starting off 7-0 was a great feeling. When we're ranked 10th in the country, we're feeling ourselves, and then we kind of just after that kind of got hit in the mouth. And I mean, it's tough. The Big Ten, obviously, it's we see it how it is. It's real challenging. And we lost 3 in a row, and now we won 3 in a row. So, like you said, it's a roller coaster of emotions. But I think our biggest thing was just to not panic. And that's one thing we didn't do was panic early. We started off 1-4, lost 3 in a row, and now we won 3 in a row. So now we can't get too high. We got to stay even keel and just keep taking it one game at a time, which I think we've done a pretty good job of so far.
Was there one of those, players only meetings or anything that after those 3 losses, was there something that kind of flipped this thing back?
I mean, I think it's just the little things, really. There was nothing big time that really changed. I think it was just going back to our identity, which is defense, and that's one thing Coach Woodson's been really preaching about. And we weren't playing defense very well. And our toughness and the intensity that we had in that 3-game losing streak, we weren't really doing that. Now I think we're kind of getting that back, which is good, and you need that. And so, in order to play offense and get into flow on offense, you have to get stops on defense. So I think that was the biggest thing for us was getting stops, and being able to contain guys and keep in the front. And like I said, just toughness.
Trace has been playing at a different level lately. I mean, insane. Other than Zach Edey, I don't know if there's been a more dominant player lately. But I think what people don't understand was how banged up he was with the back issue. I mean, this is a guy that really wasn't able to do a whole heck of a lot in practice for a long stretch, right?
Yes. I mean, he's been banged up started off with the hand and then it went to the back. So he's been having some problems, but I'm really proud of him because he's toughing it out. And we need him to practice and we need him to play well in games, and that he showed up every game and he's been a big time leader for us. And I mean, like you said, it's been incredible to watch him just work, and the amount of scoring and the dominance he's showing right now is incredible. And the way he's passing it too, he's a willing passer, which is great. He's passing on the post really well as well. So it's been good.
Like you said, defense has been huge, right? You, Tamar, Jordan have all given some defensive versatility, especially with X being out and Race now. But I want to talk to you about your 3-point shot. All right. So 18% as a freshman, 21% as a sophomore, now shooting 46% from 3. What was it just a matter of getting more reps, more opportunities? Because when you're not getting a ton of shot attempts, it's hard. You put more pressure on yourself, don't you?
100%. Yeah. I mean, and like you said, it's shooting the ball with confidence. That's the biggest thing. And I think confidence comes from the reps that you take. And I think I've been this summer, I was injured with my groin. So I really just try to focus on the shots that I'm going to get in games and game-like shots and really focus on I mean, because I've always felt that I'm a good shooter. And so I think just shooting the ball up and shooting with confidence and getting the repetition that I need, it's been really helpful and it's showing. So I'm really glad that's happening. So,
well, listen, we appreciate you coming on. Good win, way to kind of flip this thing. My daughter's very happy right now that you guys are back on the winning track, and I'll be out there in a few weeks. So good.
Sounds good.
Good seeing you. Good win, and I'll see you in a few weeks.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
All right, now pleased to be joined.
And coming up, we're going to hit the best of the rest from this Sunday in college basketball, including the #1 team in the country going down.
You're clear.
All right, Dagan, what do we got in the chat right now?
All right, fellas. Obviously, chat, drop your questions in there. We'll answer them throughout the show. Obviously, we have our big our Big East following in the chat. Yuli wants to know Big East team that's going to make the furthest run in the tournament.
Oh,
Hmm.
go ahead, gentlemen.
I mean,
don't all jump at once.
My gut says Xavier, but that's pretty chalky. But like,
It's my gut too.
you give me that backcourt, Kobe Jones, Sule Boom. I'll take that over anybody.
All right, you ready for this one? You ready for this one? Yeah, I think it's a tie. You want to hear my tie? Both
You
teams
really
make
are
the-
ducking
What?
questions.
Both,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
ducking.
You
That is
asked me.
ducking.
Hey, I told you I
That
was
is
going to
ducking.
artfully dodge. I was going to artfully dodge some questions, but I'm
This
going
is
with
artful.
two.
It's
I
artful.
think I think Providence and Marquette make the Sweet 16.
Really? What's your reasoning behind that?
Well, Providence is starting to fit together well. They have a go-to scorer. Marquette has Tyler Kolek, and that's all I need.
Whoa.
He is that good. And they have more
30.
scoring this year. Offensively, Marquette's really, really good. Xavier, but you guys picked them, so I'm just gonna.
Yeah, I was gonna throw out Xavier as well. I think they're very balanced. I like their balanced attack.
They're really good, and they have so many weapons. Sule Boom's been a hell of a transfer.
15 seconds.
Dude, not enough people are talking about him, I swear.
Yeah.
Like, he just feels like a
10
guy who's
seconds.
gonna have a big March moment, you know? One of those
Mhm.
names. Just hear it.
5. Here we go. 3, 2, 1.
We're back on the field of 68 after dark Sunday special edition. I'm Greg Waddell. We got Geo Baker. We got Terrence Oglesby. And we got a bunch more games to get to that wrapped this afternoon. Let's stay in the Big Ten for the final game of the day. My Michigan Wolverines survived and advanced with a victory over Minnesota. I think it's fair to say that. It's not the NCAA tournament, but every single game right now feels like life or death for the Wolverines. And speaking of potential death for this team, Jett Howard left the game with an apparent ankle injury. No formal confirmation on the status of his injury going forward, but he was seen in a boot in the second half. He did not return after that injury. Gio, that's not something these Wolverines can afford, right?
No, not at all. I mean, we're talking about a team that already, and I don't want to come at your team right now. I know that you're a big Michigan fan, but already has the limited playmaking, already has limited shooting, and we saw it as soon as he went out. I mean, it wasn't a great basketball game to watch, right? Minnesota's not very good. This is a team that Michigan should be able to take care of pretty handily, but just very limited playmaking all around Hunter. So I thought when Jett went out, that makes it 10 times harder.
Yeah, it got dicey. Joey Baker started the second half for this team. Joey was 1 for 6 from the floor, missed a breakaway layup, gave up a 3 in transition right after. Just not enough depth. I mean, they already lost Llewellyn earlier in the season. When you lose 2 guys who are starting caliber, that's a tough look for a team already as limited on the talent side as they could be. T.O., I feel like it does warrant at least acknowledgement that Hunter Dickinson was pretty great today. He's a guy you and I have certainly had back and forth on throughout the season. But today, at the very least, he was good enough to drag this team to a victory given the circumstances. 23-9 today. What'd you make of his performance?
Guys, he's good. Hunter Dickinson's a good basketball player. And do people want more out of him? Yeah, but let's keep in mind too, dude's averaging 17.8 and 8.9 boards a game. Like, it's almost like we're being a little unfair to the young man. He's also shooting 57.5% from the field. That's pretty good, guys. And as much as we want him to be great and to be more, but how much more is he going to be with the people that are around him sometimes? Like, Joey Baker's been pegged as a shooter his entire career, but has he ever really made shots, guys? That's the thing. Like, if you're a shooter, eventually you got to make them. You got to make shots in order to be a shooter. Does it look good coming off his hand? Sure. It doesn't go in. Doesn't matter. Right. It's almost like, hey, do you want to acknowledge Trace Jackson Davis because he goes left hand every time? And then you look at his stat sheet and he's like 25 and 17 over the past 6 games. Thank you, Rob Doster, for that stat. But I digress. The big thing with Hunter Dickinson is, do we want more? Sure. But at the same time, you also have to look at what's around him. But he can drag your team to a win, especially against a Minnesota team who came out with some energy after getting absolutely thumped by Purdue. And they were going to come out with energy at home. But this is a big win for Michigan to be able to pick up. Then they're just going to be dragging themselves the rest of the season. And Hunter Dickinson, if they're going to make the tournament, it's going to be because of Hunter Dickinson.
It's funny
Yeah.
though, because they're right at the top right now at 5-3.
That's-
They're right at the top of the
crazy.
Big Ten, which is insane.
It's not a good look for our Schmedium 10, Gio. It's
Yeah.
not a good look for this conference.
Yeah.
I was just going to say the Wolverines, to me, the scariest part was how flat they came out today after putting up a stinker against Maryland. Not a team, given their record overall, 10-8. They've got one quad, one win on the season. They are not even sniffing the bubble right now. Not exactly a sign that you want to see from your team, that they're just not there. They're down 10 points, the worst team in the conference immediately. But like we said, credit to Hunter, credit to the other guys for stepping up. And they do at least avoid the horrible loss that keeps them alive at this very moment. Let's move to the Big East, where we had UConn against Butler today. UConn at one point was in the conversation for the number one team in the country. They've had a rocky couple of weeks, to say the least. Today, they finally just blew someone out, which I think we've kind of waited for. They did that for a while early in the season. Now, here you go. They did it in conference play. 30-point victory over Butler today for UConn. Was this more about UConn getting on the right track, T.O., or was this just Butler is a really bad basketball team right now?
Butler's not great, but it's also important to recognize that UConn needed something to fall on, and they needed a soft pillow. And today the soft pillow just happened to be Butler. And they knew they were walking into a hornet's nest. And Hurley was back on the sidelines, correct?
Yeah.
Hurley was back on the sidelines.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, I caught snippets of the game. I was watching like 7 different games, didn't have the volume on. You know how that goes. So, like, he's back on the sidelines. You knew they were going to come out with some fire. They needed to come out with some fire after a close loss at Seton Hall. It's not like here's my thing with UConn. Like, it's not like they've lost all their pieces. They've just hit a bit of a rut. When's the best time to hit a rut? January. Why? Because then you start to get some level footing back towards the beginning of February. And then you hope to start playing well towards the middle to the end of February. And then you're at conference tournament time. And then you're living good, because then you get to come in and say, you know, we're playing the best basketball of our team's year this season. We're playing the best basketball heading into tournament time, and that's what you want. So I'm not falling off the UConn train just because of this recent skid. I feel like they're going to gather their footing. They're going to start knocking down shots. I need Joey California. I need you back in action, baby. I need you back in action. This UConn team still has all their pieces. It's not like injuries have derailed them. They still have guys. They still have talent. They still dominate the boards when they're engaged. This is a team that, don't sleep on them. They could be back at the end of February.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing, T.O. I mean, basketball at the end of the day is a game of adjustments. It's a game of evolution. These guys were rolling in the non-conference when it was, you know, maybe less scouting. You know, you have these early season tournaments where maybe teams just aren't preparing for you as much. And then you move into the conference play where everybody knows UConn basketball, right? You're not going to surprise anybody in conference play. So now teams have adjusted to you. How do you react to that, and how do you adjust? And I think we saw that today. Obviously, Butler isn't the best basketball team, but this is that adjustment period that they needed to get back on track. So I'm still high on UConn as well. I think that they hit a little skid, but it's really more about how do they react to it, and how are they evolving? How are they adjusting to everyone else making those adjustments against them?
As a player, is there something mentally that goes into your head a little bit if you start that cold in conference play? Like, this is a team that wasn't a national favorite preseason or anything, but I think pretty quickly into the non-conference, everybody realized how good this group is. And it's like, oh, I mean, this is a potential 1 seed. This is the Big East favorite, etc. All of a sudden, they've lost 5 straight games, or however many. They had 5 losses in their first 9 games in the conference. Like, does the switch flip from let's go win the Big East to like, let's just get right for March? Or is that not even something you think about as a player, Gio?
I mean, I think I've been in every situation. As a younger player, it's definitely something that you think about, right? It's something that affects your mental. But the reality is the good teams, the great teams, the ones that find a way through that little skid, that find a way through those losing streaks, all they're thinking about is just winning the next game. Like, that's the only thing you're thinking about. You're thinking in the moment, how do we win this next one? How do I forget about the last game? You're never too high, never too low. And that's what we need to see right now from UConn. And I think we saw that today, at least.
Yeah. All right, let's go to the number 1 team in the country, or should I say the former number 1 team in the country. Houston goes down today at home to Temple. This was a 56-55 final score. Another ugly basketball game. The one thing that stuck out to me, guys, I don't want to oversimplify and just get into, the final 10 seconds of this game, but the ball was not in Marcus Sasser's hands. And that shocks me with this team because I think he's the one guy you want the ball in the hands of. Gio, what'd you make of
as far as what?
A chance to win the game down 1 point? Like they come out, there's a timeout, I believe there's a review, there's 9 seconds left, and then they essentially got a Jamal Shed downhill drive, right? Ball never touches Sasser's hands, which I'm not saying nothing against Shed. I think he's a fine player. He's had some efficiency struggles this year, but I mean, that's just, and then at that point it comes out of bounds baseline. They had to throw the lob play, but is that like, I was shocked by that. Gio, should I have been shocked by that?
I was shocked by it, but I want to ask you guys something too, because, and I don't know if you guys watched the full game, but Houston just like never looked interested in the game to me. Sasser never looked interested in the game to me. I was really surprised by that because the last time I was on here, I was preaching about how Houston is never going to be asleep in a game. Their coach is always going to have them ready, but they didn't seem interested at all. I don't think it looked like Sasser didn't break a sweat the entire game. And I don't know if he's always like that, but you know, I just wasn't super impressed. I mean, Temple had a solid game plan, I guess, with their pick and roll action. They had a little short roll and they were finding guys, but at the end of the day, they scored 56 points. It's not like they were scoring all over Houston's defense. But on offense, Houston was stagnant. It was all isolation plays. Like you said, Sasser just never really got in that aggressive mode. So, you know, I just wasn't impressed by how disinterested they were in the game from everything I could see.
Yeah, there's something. I promise you this: Sampson's going to have those guys ready to practice.
Oh, for sure.
Let me just assure you, you don't want to be a part of that practice. And I've never been to a Sampson practice. I'm just guessing that it's not going to exactly be the most thrilling. Jonkic made one of the most impressive blocks at the end of the game. And he wasn't just there in the last 15 seconds. He was there for the entirety of the game. And credit to Sampson, he still had them in the game with a chance to win. And that tip off that baseline, that was a nice play design.
It was a great
play. I mean, curl, they knew he was going to trail. He curls right around. He has it right there, and Mark just can't put it through. Jamar Mark just can't put it through. Houston team, they're still going to be Houston. And I promise you, guys, sometimes it's good to lose. It's good to lose in conference, and it's a long season. This isn't football, right? You're going to lose. And sometimes your weaknesses get really shown out in front of everybody during these losses, and then you can work on those things moving forward. It's not necessarily a bad thing. This Houston team's still going to be really good, but credit goes to Temple. They came in, and you said Houston didn't have energy. Temple had energy. Yeah. That bench was in it the entire game. They got big performances from a couple of different guys. Dunn ended up with 16, got to the free throw line, and they weren't overly efficient, but they almost played like Houston wants to play. Just muck it up, make it dirty, and we're going to foul the hell out of you. And we're just going to see what happens at the end. But credit to Temple. Like, it's a team 12-9, and they've gotten off to a good start in their league. I mean, Temple's 6-2 now. Are they a great team in the non-conference? They sure weren't. What were they, 6-7? And now they're starting to play well when it matters most in conference play. So good for Temple, good for those guys. But Jonkic with some serious defensive plays towards the end of the game. And it wasn't just one. I mean, he was all over the place.
Yeah, I'm going to say it seemed like they out-Houstoned Houston. To your point, Gio, it was like watching a team that just felt like somehow they were going to snap their fingers and retake the lead. All of a sudden, they're down 8 with 3 minutes left. You saw them make the run they needed, but ultimately it wasn't enough. Too late for the Cougars. All right, coming up, we are going to talk about if this Houston team should still be the #1 team in the country, or if we should turn our attention elsewhere and crown a new best team in college basketball. That's next on the Field of 68 After Dark.
You're clear.
Dagan, what do we got? Is it popping yet?
It's getting there. It's getting there. Nick had a question earlier I didn't get a chance to ask, but it was about Indiana. So we'll go back to them. If TJD was healthy this whole season, would the Player of the Year race still be up in the air?
Has he been healthy just the last 6 games? Like, if that's the case, absolutely. Absolutely. He's the best player in Hoosier history if he can play the whole year like he's played over the past 6 games. My man has been bananas. The Hoosier hoopla.
I mean, this is just Big Ten guy TO through and through.
Hey, best player in Indiana history, and there's been a lot of good ones.
Wow.
If
generous.
hey, obviously he's not that. He's not that. But what I'm saying is, if he did the whole season like he has done the past 6 games, I can't find an argument. Tell me,
T.O., you know why that hasn't happened though? Because it's TJD, man. This is the tantalizing thing about TJD. Gio knows this. He does this for like 3 weeks at a time, and then it stops. Like that's why for 4 years people keep expecting this Indiana team to be great, and they're always like 8th in the conference. Like, what are they right now? Tied for 8th in the conference, and we're here saying he's the best player in college basketball. Like,
yeah, that's the only argument right there that you can't put him over Edie right now. Purdue's 19-1. Like, what do you like? There's no argument.
Seconds.
There's no argument there.
How about Purdue loses a top 5 pick and 3 starters?
4,
Crazy.
3,
Painter,
2, 1.
welcome back to the Field of 68 After Dark. And gentlemen, it is time to talk who should be the best team in the country. In fact, this is great timing for this segment because tomorrow, everyone's favorite college basketball bracketology show is returning to the Field of 68 network. That's right. It's Fielding the 68. Tomorrow's episode will be hosted by yours truly. We've got the best bracketology experts in the business unveiling their first brackets of the season. And these teams we're about to talk about right now in the mix for number 1 overall seeds come March. We've got Terrence Oglesby. We've got Gio Baker. My name is Greg Waddell. Let's get right into it. As we just mentioned, Houston went down today. Purdue survived. Alabama has been the hottest team in the country, but who is the best team in the country? T.O., what's your answer as of today, Sunday, January 22nd?
Give me Bama. I mean, at this point, what they've been able to do to the past few opponents that they've played has been downright ridiculous. What are they, 20-piecing everybody they play? They beat LSU by damn near 100. And then they go and they beat Vanderbilt by 12 and then put 21 on Missouri at their place. And Mizzou has had success at their place. So the way they're playing, the way they're defending, that's the biggest difference. We remember this Alabama team from a few seasons ago that got a lot of hoopla and whatnot. They were top 10. They were going to make the Sweet Six or the Final Four. Everybody was picking. And what did they have in common with this team? They freaking defend. And they had a big guard in Herb Jones that could make things happen for everybody else. Bama has that. And I would venture to say offensively, Brandon Miller is much better than Herb Jones. Defensively, not quite, but he's not bad either. Alabama right now, in my opinion, guys, they deserve it, especially since right at Christmas, there's been nobody better. Give Alabama the number 1.
Yeah, I think T.O. basically stole everything I was going to say.
Damn it. Hey, start going to Gio first because I ramble.
Listen, man, I mean, they won 7 straight SEC games by double digits. Like, just the way they're playing right now, they're connected. They got the length. They got the athleticism. They got the shooting ability. I mean, everything that they have right now. It's hard to argue against them being number 1, especially after seeing the way Purdue played today, the way Houston played today. If we're basing it off of right now, you've got to go with Alabama over those two, in my opinion.
Yeah, not only have they won all those games in a row by double digits, comfortable margins, they also, going back in time a little bit, beat Houston at Houston back before Houston was losing at Houston to other teams. So should Bama be in their own tier at this point, or do you think there's arguments for other teams? Because I'm just looking at that group. You just referenced Purdue struggled today. Houston goes down. We've seen Tennessee take a loss to an okay Kentucky team in the last couple of weeks. We just saw UCLA lose.
Kentucky is back. Kentucky is back.
Was Kentucky back when they beat Tennessee though, or are they back now? Like, that was a clunky game to you. I'm looking, who could we even make an argument for over Alabama right now? Because it's like, it's Houston, Purdue, Tennessee, Alabama. Are we throwing UConn back in there? Like, it kind of feels like Bama's
you can't have UConn in there. UConn over the last month. Are they even a top 25 team over the last month? No. Like, that's your issue. That's your issue. Now, are they going to be great by the end of the year? I really think UConn's going to be good. But I would say Purdue, Alabama. I'll throw Houston in there because I promise they'll be interested next game. But
what about any Big 12 love? Any Big 12 love in there?
I still like Kansas. I know that might be a crazy thing.
I
to
like
say.
Kansas too.
I still like Kansas, and
Big
Big 12 has all those teams. Hey, why aren't we talking about Kansas State being in that tier.
Ooh.
Like, why is there a reason for that? Are we anti-man happy people? I'm a big man happy person. Like, you got to throw Kansas State in that mix. I think that's pretty straightforward at this point, right?
I think that's fair. Would you, Gio? I mean, they got 2 potential All-Americans. I don't know that any other team in the country has that.
Listen, that's why I was asking where the Big 12 love was at. I think, I mean, Kansas State, Kansas, you could even argue TCU and Texas. I think could all give them a run for their money. So I think the Big 12 is super deep as well.
All right, so of that group of Big 12 teams, we can throw Kansas in there, Kansas State. We got to throw, I guess, TCU in there after what they just did to Kansas. They also beat Kansas State recently as well. But you've even got teams like Iowa State, Texas are both top 15 teams on KenPom. Baylor, I haven't even mentioned. I feel like this conference race is somewhat open now that Kansas has opened the door. But I want to know, who would you take in March? Not who would you take right now from this group of teams. Who do you think has the best chance of making a Final Four, potentially winning a national title? Gio, what do you think?
Hold on. So, all right. So say those
Go
teams
ahead,
again. Hey, just say those teams again, because I tend to go off to the left because I forget what we're talking about. So say those teams, what we're doing.
I mean, I'm going to run through the available teams.
Okay.
And really, we can open this up to the entire Big 12 because I wouldn't be shocked if any of these teams make it to the NCAA tournament. But we're talking Kansas State, Kansas, Texas, Iowa State, Baylor, TCU. And if you want to pick up Porter Moser and the Sooners, TO, I wouldn't slap you too much, but I don't think you should do that. Gio, what do you think?
I won't do that.
I still like Kansas overall. You know, you guys are going to hear me say this way too much, but, you know, just talking about basketball is a game of adjustments. They're coming off 2 losses, tough losses, of course, but that's going to happen to any great team. We're going to see it all throughout the country. I still love them in terms of their talent, the culture. They have guys who have been there before. Great coaching. I mean, everything that you want in March, right? These guys have it. So I'm going with Kansas overall. But Big 12 is crazy right now. I mean, we were just talking about it. Kansas State, TCU, Texas, Baylor. I mean, you can't really go wrong with any of these guys. But if I were a betting man, I would bet Kansas.
Look, here's my thing with Kansas State. I can't remember the last time. Actually, I think I can remember the last time where potentially, now I notice I'm saying potentially, the best NBA prospect on the floor for Kansas State's their 5th offensive option. And that's Naquan Tomlin. Is he your best NBA prospect? It's possible. That's kind of where I'm at right now. And also, if you look at who was the last team to have their best option come off the bench or be the 5th option on offense, that was North Carolina and Marvin Williams, who ended up going number 3. Now, he's not that. But what I am saying is there's a lot of talent. There's a lot of veterans on that team. And Jerome Tang, if he showed anything, guys, if he showed anything in their game against Kansas, he can keep up X and O wise. He can keep up. So I'm picking Kansas State to make a run. If I had to pick one team out of that, just because so many weapons, new coach, there's so much energy. I mean, it's hard not to pick them, but there's just so many good teams in that league.
You guys tell me how crazy this statement is, but I would have Kansas 3rd on teams that I trust in March in this conference. I would have 2 teams ahead of them. I would go K-State for the reasons T.O. just alluded to, but really also, like, I don't know that there's a duo I want more in a single elimination style game than Johnson and Noel. I think that's 2 high-powered guys that if we saw this against Kansas, right? Noel didn't have it. Okay, let Johnson put the team on his back. And then one game later, all right, now it's my turn. Noel's there to get it done against Texas Tech. The other team that I don't think we're talking about right now for fair reason, but I think they've started to right the ship, is Baylor.
Yeah.
I mean, I still come NCAA tournament. There's a long way to go to get there, but I still think this backcourt is probably the best backcourt in the country when they play well. When you've got the 3 guys that are all going at once, it's the same formula. It's different faces. There's no Davion Mitchell here defensively, but we've seen this before. And that's, to me, I want good guards when I get into the NCAA tournament. We talk about it being the year of the big. I would take those 2 teams over Kansas, which, listen, T.O. knows this. I've had some back and forth with Kansas fans throughout the year. I was wrong preseason. I was making jokes at Grady Dick's expense. That was on me. I was wrong. But one thing that
it's very big of you, right. Greg. It's very big of you, Greg. Very big of you.
DeJuan Harris. Like, I got a lot of shit for saying, are we sure that that's our guy, a point guard that we trust? I know he's a great guy normally, but are we looking at what Harris has done the last 2 games and saying we we trust that guy to run a national title team?
He ran it last year.
It was a lot easier to run it when you got Ochai Agbaji there, isn't it?
Touche.
And Jalen Wilson's great, but I'm just like, we've seen this guy in crunch time against Kansas State. What'd he do? Throw the ball away on a swing pass up top? And then I don't know what happened in this last. I'm just saying, they need a scorer at that spot to me. They don't need a setup guy this year. And I don't think they have that right now. So I'm squinting back on the Jayhawks, T.O. Maybe I'll get bit in the end for this. I don't know.
I think you might.
Real quick, let's go total rapid fire style. Quick answer here. If you could pick one conference in the entire country, you get all of their teams, and your goal is to pick the team that wins the national title. Who do you pick? I think it's the Big 12, right?
Big 12.
You could argue SEC though, Tennessee, Alabama.
Yeah, that would probably be my
You know what?
choice.
The thing is Tennessee's offense is up and down, and I love Tennessee. I think they're really, really good, but their reluctance to give Julian the ball scares me. Julian Phillips, the ball scares me. But if you look at Final Four teams, I think Tennessee and Alabama are both Final Four teams. The other two, I'm still up for debate right now. I think Purdue could make it, depending on how well those freaking freshmen show up. But I'm picking the Big 12 at this point, even though the SEC has guys. But if you're picking the conference as a whole, they've had the most recent success. So,
okay,
Fran Fraschillas.
Gio, what's your answer?
No, I'm with him 100%. Big 12. Okay. All the reason he gave is the same reason I would have gave.
I thought about saying the Big 10 just to throw you off, Greg.
You're too nice to our listeners, T.O. You don't lie to the people like that. I would have appreciated it personally, but you're too much integrity for Mr. Oglesby. All right, we're going to head back to break here, but coming up for the final segment on After Dark tonight, we're going to do a little check-in with the Blue Bloods that we all know and love. T.O. himself just declared that Kentucky is back. We'll break that down next on After Dark.
You're clear.
Dagan, what we got in the chat?
Got to be honest, we don't really have a lot here.
Lie to me, Dagan. Lie to me.
No, it's okay. We'll get people will throw some questions in there. I did see one earlier. I forget who it was from, but if you had to give me your All-Americans right now, who would they be?
Ooh.
Do it quick. So obviously we don't have that much time. So
can you have 5 Zach Edey's?
Yeah, right.
Sure.
Zach Edey. No, Zach Edey. Brandon Miller. I'd have to look at some analytics there for that to be the case. I don't know, but those are 2 that are definitely on there. Mike Miles, who I think is awesome. Maybe not Mike Miles. I don't know. That's a hard one just to pop on somebody, Dagan.
Well, I mean, that's the point of the chat questions there, too.
That's a good point. Touche, sir.
I have a spin on that question, T.O.
Armando Bacot.
Who would win in a 5-on-5 game? 5 Zach Edey's or 5 Kentucky Tyler Ulysses?
That's such a
30
fantastic
seconds.
question.
That's
such a good question. I don't know if Zach Edey could get the ball up the floor.
Yeah,
but at the same time, he doesn't have to dribble. Just line up 5 Zach Edey's in a straight line, and you just pass from one to the next one every time, all the way down.
10 seconds.
You know what I'm saying? Like there's got
5.
I'm just playing Monopoly here. I don't know.
We'll get to the. We'll come back to that after. We are live on the Field of 68 After Dark, and if you can't tell, we're having some fun tonight. We are brought to you by Bet Rivers. We are live on Sirius XM channel 84. You can also watch us on the Field of 68 YouTube channel as well. Click subscribe if you're over there, and make sure you get in there for the afters. After the show wraps, every episode, we stick around for 15 minutes or so and answer all the questions in the chat. We've got Gio Baker. We've got Terrence Oglesby. My name is Greg Waddell, and it's time to check in with the Blue Bloods. Specifically, I'm talking Kentucky, I'm talking North Carolina, I'm talking Duke. All 3 of these teams at a certain point this season have been declared dead. And then all of a sudden, a little CPR, a little resuscitation. Maybe they're starting to see the light in late January. Let's start with Kentucky, though. T.O., about 20 minutes ago, you said, well, Kentucky's back. Take us there. Are the Wildcats back?
I think they were almost it was almost by proxy that they got back. Like, because when Tennessee, when they played Tennessee, Severe Wheeler sat. And now Severe Wheeler's back, and what are they doing? They're not playing him as much. He played 11 minutes against Georgia, and they're finding a different lineup that works a little more. And I'm not saying Severe Wheeler's like an end-all be-all cure to come off the bench, but what I am saying is it changed things around because you put an extra shooter in to bring the ball up the floor. CJ Frederick, who's a field of 68 guy, you bring him in the game, let him run the show, and then Sheev's got a lot more room. He's got a lot more room. And then you're also bigger around the perimeter too, whenever you play some of those lineups. And Jacob Toppin's been better. I think a lot of it comes to that. Even against the Texas A&M team, that is tough. Any Buzz coach team is going to be tough. And whenever he was at Virginia Tech and I was finishing up my degree at Clemson, helping with the basketball team, like you dreaded playing a Buzz Williams team because those guys were going to bring it every single minute, no matter what the score was. And the fact that Kentucky was able to beat them handily was impressive. And Severe Wheeler only played 8 minutes in that game too. So they found some different lineups. They're bigger. They're better shooting. Sheeb has more space to operate. And Antonio Reeves has just come alive. So that's why I think Kentucky they're back, baby. Kentucky's back. And I'm not sure they're a national championship contender. I just don't. But at the same time, it's a deep tournament team. It's a deep tournament team as long as they stick with some of these rosters that have helped things out over the past 3 games.
I don't want to say they're back, but they're figuring it
They're
out.
back.
I think is a way I would put it. I'd say they're figuring it out for sure. And I said it too when Frederick was out. You know, just having him on the floor just helps you as a team so much. You know, when he's the guy passing it to Shigwe or you know, he's just on the opposite side. You can't help off of him. And he hasn't even been shooting the ball well, but it doesn't matter. Just his presence on the floor ends up helping a ton in terms of spacing and shooting. They've been defending the 3 a lot better. Texas A&M was 3 for 16 from 3. Tennessee was 3 for 21. So, you know, they're playing solid defense as well. But I don't want to say that they're back, but I'd say they're starting to figure it out. And that's just what happens over the course of the season.
Yeah, I don't want to harp on one kid too much, but to T.O.'s point, Severe Wheeler earlier in the season through before this winning streak started was averaging 30 minutes a game. He's played 19 total minutes for Kentucky in the last 3 games. T.O., are they unback if Severe reinstates a 30-minute role on this team?
I don't think the thing is what he does well is bring energy. Like, why would you change him back? That's kind of my hang up there. Like, he's a good player. I just don't know that the role suited him well. He's not a 30-minute guy because he's not a great shooter. And he shoots, his percentages are fine, but he's so hesitant to actually take the shots that it doesn't really matter. And the defense isn't worried about it. Now the defense is worried every time somebody brings the ball up the floor. They have to guard the entire possession. It changes things up completely. And now Kentucky's starting to play with better angles because they can. The defense is playing tighter to him. It's a big difference whenever Severe Wheeler's not on the floor.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay. Let's move to your country, though, T.O. ACC. We're talking Duke next. Duke, again, ups and downs throughout this year. They lost to your boys at Clemson. They bounced back very nicely at Cameron Indoor with a 2-point win against the number 17 team in the country, the Hurricanes. Jeremy Roach was back healthy in this game. And I don't think that's a small thing for them. He had 14 points off the bench, 6 for 10 shooting in 27 minutes. Are you buying Duke, Gio?
I don't know if I'm buying it. It was obviously great to see Roach back, and he's the calming presence that I think that they really needed. Even when he's on the floor, it feels like they're kind of relying on him a little too much in terms of the backcourt play. You know, but they got to loose balls, they finished plays, and you know that starts with him. He's their leader, he's their veteran. You know, so I was happy to see him back and being that calming presence. But I don't know if I'm buying Duke. I'd say I'm probably still a little bit on the other side of that.
Lively was good. Lively was really good against Miami. That's a big thing. Here's my thing on Duke, and they're going to be back in the national title picture, not this season. It's going to take 2 or 3 years. And if you look around at all super successful coaches, it takes them a second to get their feet wet and to kind of understand who they are as a head coach. And I think John Shire is going through that right now. He's figuring out what he is as a coach, how they're going to play, how he reacts to certain situations, all of that stuff. And then you compound that with the fact that who's really their bucket when they need a bucket. Is Filipowski, Paolo Banchero? Nope. He's not. He's a very good player. He's not Paolo Banchero. Jeremy Roach kind of needs to be that guy that facilitates to everybody. Jacob Granderson hit some shots, but it's as a result of somebody getting in the paint, kicking out, spacing the floor, and then he's knocking down shots. They need somebody to create those actions. The talent is good. It is top. It is, what was it? Top number 1 recruiting class in the country, in a class that wasn't necessarily top end heavy like the Paolo class was. But it's a bunch of pieces, and this is a good way for John to learn what he is as a coach without a singular guy that's going to almost be a crutch for him. Does that make sense? I got real deep right there. I got real deep right there. I didn't mean to get deep. But he's figuring out a lot of things without somebody that's going to fix everything for him.
I mean, I feel like there's a lot of unrealistic expectations at the beginning of the season. I mean, you have to think about it from a coaching perspective. Like, you can't just come in and replace Coach K. That's just that's unrealistic. That's not how it works. So the fact that, I think as analysts, we haven't taken that into account, where it's okay, listen, this is going to be an adjustment period for him. And then also what happened at year 1 at North Carolina, I don't think helped that at all either, because now, they had the same thing, high expectations. But at the end of the day, it is an adjustment period. You can't just go from being Coach K's assistant for as long as you were to all of a sudden just coming in and being the head coach. It's going to be a lot harder than I think people expected. I think everyone else on the outside just sees Duke, and you automatically assume that he's going to be the same as Coach K, and that's just unrealistic.
There's a lot to it, and it's not like Coach K gave him a whole lot. Like, he coached a couple of second halves when Coach K was feeling nauseous.
Right.
But like, other than that, like, he doesn't have any head coaching experience. He's figuring all this stuff out on the fly.
Yeah, it would help him if, like you said, T.O., he can get more from Derek Lively once the number 1 recruit in this class has really struggled on the offensive end this year. 5 blocks against Miami, another team that had very high expectations, to say the least, coming into this season. The Tar Heels, they've gotten on track. I mean, can we call this on track? The string of wins, Louisville, Boston College, and then a nice win at home against NC State. But I'm still waiting for this team to beat a bona fide, no doubt team that's like a top 25 team in the country. They haven't really done that this year, other than the Ohio State win. T.O., should we buy back in on Carolina at this point? Is this just that they get it right for March?
I'm buying back in on Carolina because Armando Bacot, they're featuring him more. And I think I'm going to get out of this quick so you can talk, Gio, because I know we don't have a lot of time left. But if they can get Caleb Love going, that Carolina team is going to be the Carolina team of last year at the end. Everybody else is playing well except for Caleb Love right now. He doesn't really look like he wants to be there. If he plays well, Carolina's back. If he doesn't play well, it's going to be hard, because he is that difference maker at the end of the clock.
About 45 seconds left, Gio.
I think it just depends on how we define their success, right? If we're going back to that preseason hype of, they're supposed to be this top team. I don't think that's who they are. Are they a bad team? No, they're absolutely not a bad team. They're still very good. But it's just easy to critique them comparing them to that preseason hype. But we're starting to see them play a little bit better. But also a really thin bench. That's one thing I think they need to be careful of as well.
UNC has 1 game left against a KenPom top 25 team this season. That's at home against Virginia. That's what happens when you play in the ACC, folks. Mr. Terrence Oglesby is going to kill me in the afters. This was the Field of 68 After Dark. Gio Baker, Greg Waddell, Terrence Oglesby. We'll see you next time.
And you're clear.
All right. Chaotic end to that show, but I had to get one more shot in at the Atlantic Coast Conference there. I'm sorry, T.O. If you've been listening to us, jump into our YouTube chat, fire any questions you've got at us. We'll stick around for about the next 15 minutes here. Producer Dagan, anything going on in there?
Let's do it. Chat, re-ask your questions again. If I didn't get to them earlier, it's way too hard for me to scroll back and try to find them with everything going on. I did see one, though, which is kind of along the lines of what we were talking about with All-Americans. If you had to pick Power 6 leagues, which first team from any of those leagues would win in like a tournament style?
Ooh.
I like that.
I forget who asked that. So if you asked that, I'm sorry, but that was a good question.
That's a really good question. So basically, who has the most individual talent out of the Power 6?
Yes.
Okay, knock out the Big Ten.
Do we get to pick our coach too as part of this?
Sure. You can do whatever you want. It's the afters. It's the afters. You can do whatever you want.
Okay, so knock out the Big Ten. Okay, so knock out the Big Ten, knock out the Big East. The Big East is very good. The top end talent of the Big East isn't what the rest is.
Are we sure knock
SEC
out the Big East?
Yeah.
Positive? You wouldn't take like 2 guys from UConn plus a couple, maybe 1, 2 from Creighton. Like I feel like you could get a 5 that's pretty nice there.
I think I'm going Big 12. I think I'm going Big 12, guys.
So Big 12, you have Mike Miles, Jalen Wilson. Who else would be on that?
I'm trying to think who the big would be. That's the only thing.
Marcus Carr, Keontae
So
Johnson.
you can have Johnson on there.
Hey, don't sleep on the Pac-12 if we're talking about just strictly 5 now.
You have what? Hawkes.
Give us your 5. Give us your 5.
So Hawkes, you're gonna think I'm crazy. Tiger Campbell, Tubelis, Drew Peterson, Southern Cal, good player, and maybe even a Brendan Carlson sighting from Utah, 7'1" guy who can step out and shoot threes. That's a good team.
I love that you had to throw in the Southern Cal qualifier for those that might not know who Drew Peterson is.
Yeah,
Just for the
I
record.
know. Yeah, Southern Cal. If I had to pick, it would be between the ACC and the SEC, quite frankly.
Yeah, I'm working on an SEC one right now. I'm just struggling at the guard spot. I don't know who I'd love from the guard spot there. Because if you can give me Brandon Miller, Oscar, maybe you take like Vescovy to start, just to have a vetty shooter there. But
Terry Roberts. Did you see him against Kentucky? Holy cow. That dude was, talk about, man, shifty. Really good. I would probably go the ACC, quite frankly. I think the top end is there. Isaiah Wong, Armando Bacot. That's a hard one, actually. Now that you say all that stuff, that's a really hard one to really like pick them out right away.
You take anyone from Virginia on there or no?
Yeah, Reese Beekman, I'd probably take him. So basically, if we're just picking like NBA street style, you beat a team, you take a player.
yeah,
Okay. All right. Yeah, I like that. That's a great question. Let's write that. Let's pin this one because it's going to take entirely too long.
We'll do it. Next time
together.
we'll make it the whole show. We'll just do each.
Yeah, let's pin that
do
one.
the whole
Let's pin
thing.
that.
All right.
Yeah, we should do a whole show of that.
We
That's
can
a
do a
really
whole
good
show
question.
of that.
Yeah.
Matt Schultz. Realistically, how far do you think Purdue can go?
Purdue?
Purdue.
I think they can win the whole thing. I really do. That defense, I think so because of the defense. I think so because of the shooting. The only thing that's going to hold them up is if Zach Edey has a bad day and can't pass it out. If he figures out how to pass to that, if he just passes the ball better, like puts it on the numbers, and he's got a lot of duress and guys hanging all over his shoulders and everything, but those guys are good enough shooters and they're guarding. They're really defending this year. That's the biggest difference.
Gio, did you say you don't agree that they could win it all?
Yeah, I don't see them winning it all. I do think the situation with Edey and fouls is going to come back to bite him in the butt come March Madness. And those freshman guards, they've been okay, but I could see a lot of guards exploiting them come March, where again, it's less scout, it's more kind of quick pace type of game. I just think the style overall of Purdue and the Big Ten in general just doesn't do well in March, and that's why we continue to see that the past couple of years as well. So I could see them Elite 8, Sweet 16, but I don't see them going as far as winning it. I don't see it.
That feels like the Painter zone too.
Yeah,
and I love Matt Painter, but that's
and look,
The Elite 8 is the Painter zone.
like Sweet 16, Elite 8 in there. Yeah, if we're talking
So
ceiling.
second weekend.
Yeah,
Matt
But it's
Painter
like-
lives for the
and it's
second
like-
weekend is what you're saying.
I think a lot of people give him some crap for that too, but it's like at the end of the day, it's so hard to win in March.
It is. And you got to be lucky.
It's so hard to win. You got to be extremely lucky. You have to be lucky. And so like me saying Sweet 16 Elite 8 isn't trying to throw a shot at Coach Painter or at Purdue, you know what I mean? But I don't see them winning it all, because of all those other factors.
And they ran into a buzzsaw at St. Peter's last year. If they don't play St. Peter's, like they probably in the Final Four.
Yeah.
Like think about that.
Shout out St.
it's
Peter's.
really it's
Shout out
really
St. Peter's.
interesting. It's interesting to me because I feel like the people who are highest on Purdue's chances in March are not Big Ten people to me. Like even Big Ten people can say like, oh, they're the best team by far. They're going to win this league, but we're all still like, I just don't think it's going to work. And
That's
I
how
find
I
that
feel.
really
That's how I feel right now too.
Yeah, it's crazy to me to just think. And
Yeah.
also, if you could just tell me for sure that they'd avoid Rutgers, then their chances of winning it all is like 50% higher to me. You have a spell on these guys, Gio. What, 4-1? I think in the last 5 against Painter.
Yeah. It's been we figured out the game plan, man. We figured it out for sure. And it doesn't hurt when you have Cliff who can kind of match up with Edie a little bit. That definitely helps. So.
And you have bigger guards who
Yeah.
pressured the hell out of the other guards. Like
Yep.
what a lot of people are like, how do you stop Zach Edey? Hey, you stop him before the ball gets
Yeah,
there.
you don't
And
let him
that's
pass
what-
it in.
That's what ball pressure. And that's what
Yep.
Rutgers is going to do that. Like if you can get out there and pressure those guards and then make those passes, make him take one, like get him one dribble further away from the rim.
Yep, exactly.
Just one dribble. Your efficiency drops. Like the majority of post players, efficiency drops tenfold if you just get them one more dribble out. And
No,
I
we
know
had-
that sounds like not a lot, but like that's a huge deal.
We had
right?
an extensive film session when I was there on Edie of his makes and his misses, and same thing that you were saying. We were saying if you push him out early, we have a lot of ball pressure, get him out farther on the block, the efficiency dropped down like majorly. I don't remember the exact numbers, but
30 points.
yeah, it was crazy.
Dang, what else we got?
From LD23 Hart. This is gonna really test your knowledge here, boys. So get ready for this one.
Okay.
Top to bottom, which league is better, the WCC or the American?
what a great question. All right, so let's
Where's
pull this
Fanta
up
at, man? We need Fanta here.
No, Fanta that would take him a second too. That let's see.
We have to go all the way to the bottom because the bottom's gross in both, man.
Well, that's what he said, top to bottom. Well, we know the top of both.
It is insane to me. It is absolutely insane to me. And I just pulled up the West Coast Conference, so forgive me. That Pepperdine doesn't just get dudes year after year. Have any of you guys, Dagan, Greg, have you guys been to that campus?
Yeah,
I haven't been
I've
there.
never been to campus, but I know what it
Holy
looks like.
shit.
I've heard
Oh
about
my
it.
God, dude, Dwayne Wade's their neighbor. Like it is like, dude, it is insane out there. Dr. Dre lives down the beach from Pepperdine. Like, hey, Dr. Dre, NIL, Beats headphones, whatever the heck you got to do, dude. Pepperdine can be a freaking force. I'm not even kidding. It's the most beautiful place I've ever seen. I was like, I swear I grew up in God's country, but I missed out. It's out in Pepperdine.
Tio,
Malibu.
if you got the Pepperdine offer, are you considering it?
That's too far away from Memo.
Oh, come on.
At the time,
For the
it's why I
record,
didn't go to. It's why I didn't go to Michigan.
yeah, sure, I'm sure.
No, that's right. That's a true story. That's why I didn't go to Michigan. It's too far away from my grandparents. My grandparents were getting old. Those are my two amateur. It was Clemson and Michigan.
Is that
And I
actually
love-
true?
That's actually true. I love Tommy
Dude,
Amaker.
you could
Loved it.
have saved my program 4 years before it got saved, you asshole.
That was Stu Douglas.
Made me
Stu
sit
Douglas
through
did that
Laval
for you.
Lucas Perry for 3 years when I could have seen you shooting all those shots.
They were recruiting me alongside God, what's the kid's name? Manny Harris. It would have been me, Manny Harris, Deshaun Sims. And that's kind of who they were trying to recruit around. And the only reason I really like Michigan, I thought it was really cool. And we went up there, and the Block M's really neat right there in the middle of campus, and you can't step on it. And they have all these cool things. And my grandmother was getting older. My grandfather was he had started to develop dementia, and I wanted to be a little bit closer to home. So that's why I ended up going to Clemson. Plus, they were on the way up. And ironically enough, my last college game was against Michigan. So
I remember it well. I honestly, I owe you a thank you. I might write you a little handwritten note in the mail here soon. If you commit to Michigan in the Manny Harris, Deshaun Sims era, John Beilein never comes to Michigan. So my program might not ever be saved, even if you
know,
guys
it's
were
funny.
great.
It's funny. I can't remember who the assistant was that was recruiting me at the time, but he spent some time over at Air Force. And I called him a few years later because he was recruiting a kid that I knew. He was like, "You son of a bitch." he goes, "You're down there in Clemson hitting all those game winners, and then we got fired." I was like, "Man, I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. It was too far away from home." And I asked Amaker, I was like, "Amaker, like, hey Tom, how cold's it get up here? How cold's it get up here?" You know, I grew up in Tennessee. It's not that cold. We get snow once a year on accident, Gio.
Yeah.
And it's like, and he goes, "We don't know. We don't go outside." I was like, I respect that. I respect
Wow.
it. But that's a true story. That's a true story.
What a domino effect that would have set off. That's
Learn something every
incredible.
day. Look at that.
Incredible. For the record, Dagan, the answer to that question is the American because
I don't know how we got here based on that question, but whatever.
Yeah.
We talked about Pepperdine.
That's right. That's true. That's true. All right, I got another one for you. A little less challenging. Boiler diehards. If you're a first-year head coach and you can either have Zach Edey for 3 years or Brandon Miller for 1 year, who are you taking?
Oh, Zach Edey.
Am I allowed to play Zach Edey more than 17 minutes a game the first two, unlike Matt Painter?
You're the coach. You can do what you want.
Then Zach Edey. But if I have to pretend Travion Williams is better than him for 2 years, then maybe Brandon Miller.
Guys, Zach Edey's worth 20 wins a year by himself. And if you're a coach in a world right now where you're getting fired for,
I was just gonna say,
like, if you're not winning 20 games, you're getting fired. Even if you are winning 20 games, you still might get fired. Like, dude, give me Zach Edey just to give me some consistency to start off, and then I'll recruit some dudes behind him.
That's
a good question, though. That's quality.
I mean, if you're a coach, that's your livelihood. You need 3 years, 3 good years. You know, you're good on the contract.
Chet started off slow. They're bringing the heat.
They're at. Here's another one for you. Tournament bracket is his name in the chat. Tournament bracket. That's a great name, by the way. Also name. I don't know how you got that. Can NC State?
He's probably wrong.
Can NC State sneak into the second weekend?
Is Turk healthy? That's my question.
Turkey is healthy. The update, all tests came back negative.
Nice.
And he is day-to-day. So, yes, he is healthy. Depending on matchups, depending on how they finish in the conference, let's just say they do well in the conference and they get in the tournament. Because right now, to me, they're on that – they're in, but they're on that bubble line. I'm going to say yes because of the same reason that I picked Miami to go to the Elite Eight last year. And that's because they have guards that can create their own shot. And they have a bunch of them. And they play a certain style. And good luck preparing for Terquavius Smith on one day. Like, good luck. That is very difficult.
So Tia's just going on luck again to try to get that NC State.
Hey,
no, I'm saying good luck to whoever they're having to prepare
I'm
for.
saying you're picking them like Miami, so you're just hoping for luck again, like you did last year.
That wasn't luck. What are you talking about, Dagan?
Dagan. Clearly, we have to get.
Hey, do me a favor, Dagan. Call Archie too. Call Archie too.
That's true. All right, fair enough.
Yeah.
Clearly, we have to get TO on fielding the 68. Our bracketology.
We do. Speaking of that, starts tomorrow, 5 p.m. Right here on
Sure.
5 p.m. tomorrow.
Everybody watch.
Fielding the 68. If Clemson's not a 3 seed, don't even watch it. Like, don't even bother watching.
I
can tell you with confidence.
Who else is on that show?
Who's on the show?
Who's the lineup tomorrow, Dagan?
So the whole show, we got rotating hosts of Greg, Jim, and Kai from the 3-Man Weave Best Bet Show.
Those guys are some of the funniest human beings on the planet.
Those are our rotating hosts all year, and then we have 4 bracketologists. We'll have 2 on each week or each show. Lucas Harkins, Rocco Miller, Andy Bottoms, and we've added Brad Wachtell this year. So those 4 guys will rotate.
Who's the last one?
Brad Wachtell.
Is that Greg's alter ego?
Just rhymes, TO.
Yeah, it just rhymes.
You want to tell us about your relation to Terry Oglesby while we're at it?
I got no relation to Terry Oglesby.
Speaking of relation,
I have an uncle.
Of that, there was a question in the chat. Is you related to somebody? Greg, I'm sure you've gotten this before. Somebody from Purdue.
Brian Waddell.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure you've gotten that before.
He's my little cousin for sure. He's hooping. He took the stuff from me. That's for sure.
That's not true.
That's not true at all.
I couldn't tell. I had no idea that was true.
It's a total lie.
He sounded dead serious.
We are.
I would have given you Brian Cardinal. I would have given you Brian.
Cardinal. I did tell Caleb first that I'm related to him though, because we're doing this whole College Hoops to Go travel series that airs.
That's cool,
by the way. Thank you. But we're going around to 10 different Big Ten campuses. We're not going to Geo's Rutgers this year, which is sad because I'd love to see the rack. But anyways, we got to go to Purdue. We're going to Purdue in a week, and I'm still holding out hope that I'm going to be able to sit down with my long lost cousin. So I got to sell it everywhere that I can right now.
All right, I'll give you one more question before we go, and then you guys can do your toast and we can get out of here. This one's specifically for you, Geo. Who's winning in a one-on-one? You or Ron Harper Jr.?
Oh man, Ron's gonna hate this. I know you guys are gonna clip it too. So, but yeah, if it's if it's 3 dribbles, which is how real hoopers play one-on-one, everyone knows real hoopers, you play 3 dribbles only. I've never met anyone who could beat me one-on-one. That's just me.
It's a wild statement. That's a wild.
I like,
3
I like
dribbles,
the confidence. I like
3
the
dribbles,
confidence. I like it.
one-on-one. T.O., listen, I'm not saying I was the most efficient basketball player. I never, ever got my shot blocked once my entire career.
Hey, Gio,
Jump shot.
I'm eating food. 3 dribbles, we're done. Like
3 dribbles.
Come on, man. I was living inside 3 dribbles. I couldn't dribble more than that before I dribbled off my foot. Three
I didn't mean to
dribbles.
set
Let's
it
eat
up. I
food,
don't
baby.
know. I mean, we can set this up, man. This is-
3 Wait, you're saying that you would beat me 3 dribbles?
Yeah, I would beat
Oh
you.
my goodness.
yeah.
Oh, shoot.
I would
There
beat
we
you 3
go.
dribbles.
Dang, what's going on?
There
What's
we
going
go.
on
I didn't
right
mean to set
now?
this up. Personally, I think
Hey,
this
don't
is-
doubt me.
I think
I'm
we set
averaging
this
smooth
up.
25 in church league. Smooth 25 in church league.
We've got.
Yeah, Hey, are you coming down to the Final Four, Gio?
I don't know. I mean, listen. If Rob and Jeff can hook it up, then then
All
we'll
right.
talk. But
we'll make something. We can work something out. I need to see this.
We used to do that all the time with 3 dribbles with James Flight White, Jody Meeks, Malcolm Delaney would come down and play. Like we had a bunch of good
the
during
best
the
way to
summer.
play.
We could run
Yeah, threes.
a whole tournament at the network now. RC.
Yeah, we probably could.
Hansborough.
I'm not playing 3 dribbles with Hansborough. I'm trying to keep my
Hey,
teeth.
well,
yeah, I'm good off that too. I'm good.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm
that's
not
fine.
playing
All right.
Hansborough.
All right, well,
I don't know. You might have a chance against Hansborough because like he would just throw it up at the rim and just go get it himself.
Doster. I mean, come on. He's gonna be Doster, right?
Did you just bring up Rob Doster's name in a bunch of one-on-one talk?
I
This
had
is
to. All right,
ridiculous.
let's get to toast tonight. Let's go.
Are you sure?
I'm
There's
sure.
no more questions?
No,
I'm ready to go.
There are
We
more
can spend
questions,
another 20 minutes
but
here. It's
if
only
I read
10.
all the questions, we'll be here all night.
We're doing toast.
We did the show early for a reason, Dio.
Oh boy. All right. Listen, I'm throwing to Gio because I love that 3 dribble answer so much. Gio, who's your toast of the night?
I mean, this is gonna be a pretty simple toast, but toast of the night to Temple. What they were able to do. It's a rare occasion to beat the number 1 team, especially on their home court. So the fact they were able to go out and do that today, major props to that program. And I love how they've been playing in conference play. So toast of the night to Temple.
Cheers.
All right.
To the Owls.
Cheers.
To the L's.
T.O.
I'm toasting to JP Pegues, the new starting point guard for the Furman Paladins, who in a rivalry game at Wofford goes for 24 points on 8 of 17 shooting. My man was aggressive. Furman has 2 guys that are going to get paid money. I don't know what level they're going to get paid money, but they got 2 guys in Mike Bothwell and Jalen Slauson. We covered them earlier this year for the Field of 68. They're very good. They needed a 3rd guy to be good consistently. JP Pegues is starting to step into that role. He was excellent tonight. Cheers to them. Big win for Furman. 15-6 on the year, 6-2 in conference, still staying atop the SoCon.
Cheers. All right. I'll do it. It hurts me to say it, but it's got to be TJD. It's got to be TJD. 31, 15, and 4. He was the player of the night. He was the player of the week. He's been the player of the last month. And man, Indiana's not exactly dead yet, which I can't believe. I thought 2 weeks ago they were dead. You could write them off, and they're not, thanks to Mr. Jackson Davis. So honestly, I should probably start smiling about that. Somebody's at least trying to hold the Big Ten up a little bit still here.
Yeah.
That's a good thing, I guess. Thank you, Trace. We appreciate you. All right. This was fun. Thank you, Chat Mob. You really turned it on in the 4th quarter today. We appreciate that. For Terrence Oglesby, for Gio Baker, I am Greg Waddell, for producer Dagan as well. This was the Field of 68 After Dark.